All right, I think we're live. Hey, Jan, welcome to my show tonight. And yeah, this is Mighty Monday, and I'm the host, Mae Renfroe. And it's always, I'm excited to have a guest join me to share their story about God's done in their life to encourage others. So I just welcome all of those who will either listen now or later. I mean, I hope you've had a great week since my last Monday show. And yeah, we're excited about what we're going to talk about. So, and Jan, I've just got to talk with her this morning on one of her podcasts. She's the host of two podcasts and the author of four books and a mother of 10, like myself. So, we had a fun chat this morning on her podcast. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, Jan, you can go ahead and introduce yourself and then we'll get into your story and hopefully everything will go good with our internet connection and everything. We just had a little episode a bit there, but we'll hope it's good. So go ahead.
But and we just go on, right? Thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
yeah,
It's a,
yeah.
a privilege to be here. So I live in Oregon on the coast, about a mile from the Columbia River. Um, we live on a sheep farm where my husband does sheep and I watch.
Yeah, yeah, he does
we,
that.
we have
Yeah.
the property, and so there's seven dogs that kind of guard them, and, and
Oh wow. Yeah,
yeah,
help out with the
well,
sheep. That's
border
cool.
collies. And,
Yeah,
uh, trained border collie. Now that the kids aren't here to help round up the sheep, we have
yeah,
the
yeah,
dogs.
yeah, yeah. You need the dogs more for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's a beautiful place to live, and it's a lot of rain, but the summers are gorgeous, and it's starting
Mm-hmm.
to get a little sunshiny now, so makes
Yeah.
me hope.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Summer's on its way. Yeah.
yeah. So about 35 years ago, my first husband had a brain tumor, and he started limping and seeing some things that were causing some concern or whatever. So we went to the doctor, and at that point I was 30, he was 35, and we had three kids. So we had a newborn at that time, and
Mhm.
a 3-year old and a 7, 8, 9, 9-year old, a 9-year old at that time. Um, and we were kind of naive, because we didn't really hadn't had a lot of medical experiences or anything, so it was like, well, okay, whatever the doctor says, probably going to be the right thing to do. I don't know. So we
Mm.
went into the hospital. They said, "Oh, we'll just do surgery. There's this little tumor that's about the size of a walnut, left side of the brain. Everything should be good. We'll go in there, take it out, and everything's going to be hunky dory." And I'm thinking, "Oh, it sounds like a broken arm. I think we can deal with that." You know?
Mhm.
So at the
Mhm.
time, I had a Christian preschool that I uh, managed, and a lot of staff, a lot of kids, and whatever. So I had to kind of get all that in order and to be able to figure out what to do. And had a friend that watched my kids. So we went to went in the hospital. It was just like horrendous anxiety on my part. Just what is,
Mm.
I mean, even though you trust that God's going to
Yeah,
take care of you, you just get so full of like, really, what is really gonna happen, so 8
yeah,
hours later, he finally
yeah,
comes out free, and he's paralyzed,
yeah.
and
Oh.
which wasn't supposed to happen.
Oh, that wasn't part of it. They
That
didn't
was part
pre
of the
yeah, they didn't pre-warn you about that being a possibility?
no,
Oh.
no, no, no. So he
Oh.
had aphasia, so he couldn't talk to begin with, and it's kinda like, okay, like, what is exactly going on here, So paralyzed on his right side. When you have a tumor on one side of your brain, it affects the opposite side of your body.
Okay.
He was left-handed, so that
Yeah.
was a plus there. But within that period of time, he was in the hospital for 3 weeks, and within that period of time, there were just so many ways that God showed up. It was
Mhm.
just miraculous. All kinds of people were supportive of us and came up. I mean, the nurses would start kind of hanging out in the doorway just because they could feel the presence of God inside of there.
Oh,
And so
wow.
he
Okay.
was there for a couple of weeks into it, he started to get some of his speech back, but he was able to start writing, to start journaling some things. And it was just really amazing the kind of insights that God was giving him. They were just so deep and taking him into a rich place, you know. And it
Mhm.
was kind of like, okay, if I have to be paralyzed, what does that mean? And of course, that's life changing, you know, when
Yeah.
you're a man at 36, you can't work
Oh,
anymore,
wow.
drive, and you
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
do all the things you're used to doing and being a part of, you know. So, um, some frustrations and trying to work through some of that kind of stuff. So, as the time went by, you know, we ended up having I called the hospital and I said, you know, I haven't gotten a bill yet. And they, oh, let me check and see, you know, what's going on. And they're looking for their files. Of course, at that time they have physical files. It wasn't
Okay.
even
Yeah. Yeah.
like on the computer. Here, let me check this out, you know, whatever. And she gets back to me and she says, I don't see any record of you haven't been in there. It's like, it says, "You don't have a bill." I mean, it should have been hundreds of thousands of dollars at that point,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
yeah, no bill.
Oh, man. That's a
And
miracle and a
those
half.
yeah, just in itself, you know, just that
Yeah.
those little things that are I mean, little, it wasn't little, it was huge, you know, but it was just it was so encouraging to know that he really cares about us, you know, and he's really there for
Mhm.
us.
Mhm.
So, after, after he came home and he had to adjust to doing things here and there, you know, but and as things got worse, he was kind of okay for a little while, but then things got worse, and he was just like, "Okay, God, what do you really want to do with me? Because I can't do much of anything, you know." And so
Mhm.
between his journaling and God really took him to a place that he called the fourth dimension. It was almost in my mind, it was almost like maybe John was when he was writing Revelation, you know, and something just
Okay.
otherworldly kind of
Yeah.
depth to things, you know. And it was yeah, it was really interesting. So anyway, I ended up after he died 2 years later. Um when he you know, actually, would you mind if I read it, Chad, the first chapter
Oh,
of the
sure.
because it talks about that.
Okay.
Have a little author. I ended up writing the book. So this is the book. It's called "I Will Enter His Gates: A Walk with God," and
Is that your memoir?
that's my memoir. And so, because
Okay.
after he died, he ended up, you know, leaving his journal, and of course, you
Yeah.
never read that when your husband's life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
um, or whatever person. And he, after I started reading it, and I saw how rich it was and everything, it was just like God says, "You need to write a book," and I'm thinking, I don't know anything about writing a book.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I've written little stories or something, but nothing like this, you know. So it took me a
Yeah.
long time to really figure out a long time, like
Okay.
about 25 years to
Oh,
actually
okay.
figure
Yeah.
out how to write and to write well enough.
Yeah.
But I just want to read the prologue because it'll give you a feel for what things
Oh,
were
for
like,
sure.
if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Excuse me. 1985. Red and amber lights were rhythmically reflecting on the bedroom mirror. I'm only aware of the pulse of my heart as it beats rapidly in my ears. The ambulance is here, Mom, Nick says. Mom, the ambulance is here. He tugs on my arm. I look through the window and then at my son. I still can't believe this is happening. I knew it was only going to be one more year. That was the answer I'd gotten in April when I had asked God how much longer all this was going to last. But still, Howard Ray, my husband, had been doing so well. Even tonight, he had said, Well, I guess the doctors are going to be wrong again. They said 2 years, and look how well I'm doing. Tonight, I had gone to my friend Mary Ann Reed's to spend a respite evening visiting. Howard had taken care of the kids alone. Granted, Sarah was 6 and able to do a lot of things for herself, and I'm sure Nick helped get 3-year-old Kyle into his PJs. Nevertheless, Howard read them stories, got them tucked in, and managed mostly on his own. How did everything go? I asked when I returned. I didn't get any frantic phone calls from you. No, it was great. I'm glad you were able to get a break. I give him a good night peck on his bearded cheek and head to bed. I'll see you about 11. I still want to do some Bible reading and write some more in my journal. I won't see you, I reply as usual, not realizing this would be our last conversation. I'll be
Mm.
sleeping tonight. Good night. I purse my lips and smack a kiss toward him. It's 3 in the morning. Howard comes into the bedroom calling my name. John. Slurred, anxious. I bolt up in bed, awakening from a deep sleep. What's going on? Are you having a seizure? He's holding his head with both of his hands. My head. My head hurts. It hurts. He moans. I grab him by the shoulders and sit him down on the bed. What should I do? What should I do? His eyes are vacant. He falls back onto the homemade quilt of our king size bed. I look around, like there might be an answer on the wall or the ceiling. Like everything else on this long journey, there might magically appear, waiting on the wall, something to guide me. Was this it? Was this how he was going to die? He didn't want to die in a hospital. But what should I do? I grab his bottle of phenobarbital from the nightstand. My shaky hands open the bottle and take one out. I try to get him to swallow a sip of water. He begins to spasm and retch. I look around for something, a towel, a bowl, anything. I run upstairs to get Nick. He's only 11, but he has been my little man there when I needed him. And right now, I needed him to stay with his dad while I make frantic phone calls. Who should I call? Who would answer at this time in the morning? I try our friend Nancy McGathin, who's a nurse from church and has been with us on more than one occasion. The phone rings. I listen for Howard. It rings. Hurry and pick up. After the fourth ring, I hang up. Any person in their right mind would be asleep right now. Now what? God, what should I do? I could try Mary Ann, but she'll tell me to just call an ambulance. Okay, then, I guess that's what it's going to be. I'm sorry, Howard. I know you don't want to go this way. I know how much you hate hospitals. I open the front door and let the men in. They wheel in a gurney, through the kitchen, down the hall, around the corner, and into our bedroom. Now Howard lies on the bed, eyes closed, his paralyzed right hand twitching. They lift him into the gurney, cover him with a warm blanket, and roll him under the ambulance, made easier because of the newly installed ramp. I stand, stunned, staring at the empty place in the bed, the place that will no longer hold my husband. Lord, is this it? Is this the end? And then an audible voice. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. I look around to see who had said it. No, the men were outside, putting him into the ambulance. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, I repeat. This is it, Lord, isn't it? He's going home, isn't he? He's going home.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Wow. That was quite the
I mean,
journey. Wow.
only time in my life I've heard an audible voice of the Lord,
Yeah.
but
Oh, wow. That was amazing. I love that part with the Psalms 23. Oh, that
yeah,
was amazing. Wow. How hard, for you that came at such time because you never no, even though you knew your husband was given, I mean, obviously so much time with the doctor, but you just
yeah,
don't know. That would have,
yeah.
yeah, been very, yeah,
And then when we got to
very,
the
very
hospital,
hard.
he was he got there ahead of me, and I went into the room where he was laying on the bed, and all of a sudden he sits up and he raises his hands. He said, "It's the angels. I see the angels." And then that was the
Mhm.
last thing he said
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
before he died. Yeah.
Got it. His glorious
Yeah.
entry
Entry into.
into
Yeah.
heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
One of
wow.
the things that's
That's
happened
amazing.
with this book that was really interesting, just amazing for me, is that my son, my oldest son, does voiceover. And so
Mm,
I asked him to come up and we recorded the book together.
mhm.
And he
Oh,
read his
okay.
dad's voice, his
Yeah.
dad's part
Oh,
and his
okay.
and everything. And he had never read my book or really, he was 3 when he died. So he didn't really
Yeah.
know him.
Okay. Oh,
And
wow.
so
Yeah.
as he was reading it, I mean, there were some moments, because he'd pretty much not gone to church since he left home. He's 40 now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so to have all of this, like his dad speaking to him,
Yeah.
at the time. And so while he's here, he started going to church with me, and it was just kind of like, oh, like, yeah, this stuff is real, like really
Yeah.
real. And it just hit me that Howard was able to evangelize his son 35 years later.
Oh, wow. Wow, isn't that neat? And that God, gave him that ability
Yeah,
and be able to do that in his last time. Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Wow,
It just
that's
was,
amazing.
it is, it's just
Yeah.
like, and because I think we wait a long time for things and we don't really know what God's doing all the time.
Mhm.
He's just
Mhm.
not, it doesn't seem like he's listening, or it doesn't seem
Mhm.
like acting on anything, and of course we all pray for our kids,
Mhm. Yeah.
to have that relationship.
Yeah.
And then when that, it was just like, wow. And now he wants me to send him the sermons for my church, that are on YouTube
Yeah.
all the time
Mm.
to continue.
Oh,
But it's
wow.
such a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I like how God does that. And um, yeah, like you said, that we don't see God working, so we can get impatient. So we don't see these things. And there is a time for different things because people's hearts maybe aren't quite ready.
Yeah.
They got to be at that point, right? And God knows the perfect
Yeah.
timing, but we don't. So it's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
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 Oh, wow. Wow, that's beautiful.
So when I got done with that, because that was a hard book to write, walking
Yeah.
through all,
Yeah.
besides trying to figure out exactly how to do it, my youngest daughter was a nurse at a large hospital, and she worked nights on this really difficult floor. It probably should have been a psych ward. It was just lots of really crazy stuff. So in the
Mhm.
mornings driving home, she starts telling me crazy patient stories.
Oh, okay.
So I thought, well,
Yeah.
it'd be fun to just do something entirely different and write some romance. So
Yeah.
they had a couple of friends that she was working with. So I created these series of books that are around these four characters that she worked with.
Oh, okay.
And so
Oh,
this
okay.
is one of them.
Oh,
It's called
okay.
yeah, My Heart's for You. And so what
Oh,
happens in
okay.
this one is the character um is just trying to get into relationships, and doesn't find the right one, and gets into a bad relationship, and then realizes she's being used and stuff. And of course, by the time she gives up, she
Mhm.
meets somebody that is working for a nonprofit, and they end up going down to Honduras together. And as they're down there, he's just looking at um, a community that the sponsors have helped to build and whatever. And while they're looking at a school, there's a girl that's peeking around the corner, and they're trying to figure out what's going on with her because she's not joining the other kids at school and
Mhm.
everything. And ends up that she's being trafficked. And so
Mm.
delves into, you know, that situation, trying to create a safe house, and uh, uh, just get into some deeper kinds of,
Mhm.
storylines, instead of just fluff. Fluff's okay sometimes, but I wanted to get something deeper. So then the
Mhm.
second book is called
Oh,
Windows to My Heart. And in this one, the girl Tina has her mother dies of cancer a couple of years after her brother dies from Batten disease, which is a debilitating neurological disorder. And so she's kind of caught in the middle of all of this grief. And then her dad and mom had started a foundation for the Batten disease, and she just kind of feels left out of his life, and about, because he's so wrapped up in everything else. And then she meets Nate, who's a researcher at the foundation, and he's
mhm.
had his own kind of issues with his dad, who was a drug addict, and whatever. So he tries to live a life that's as far away from that as possible and everything. So, and he's not really a believer, hasn't gone to church or whatever. So, throughout this story, he ends up finding out. But uh, so they come together, and
Mhm.
a lot of healing that goes on. So there's, in the issues there. And then the last one
Okay.
was like kind of a little hallmarky mistletoe Christmas tree lodge, and it's just got
Okay. Yeah.
just fun little second chance romance with a little girl
Okay.
in it. And, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So those are fun, and they're just I have them
Has it
on their ebooks, and then their ebooks, and
oh,
then
okay.
the print books. But I also did the audio with them with my daughter, who was basically the main character in, in the first book.
Oh, okay.
So her
Yeah.
voice is that in there too. So that was just fun,
Oh.
just family
Oh,
fun.
that is neat. Yeah,
Yeah,
that you could do that together as a family, and it's
yeah,
heartwarming, encouraging stories, right?
yeah, yeah. So I'm almost done with the third book
Mhm.
in the series, and this one has Olivia and Peter, and Olivia was born without a hand, and
Mm.
he's been adopted, and they can't figure out. Yeah, nobody really understands why she wasn't born without a hand, but they handed her over to her with her arm just bandaged up, and nobody would say what really happened. So there's kind of that figuring out what happened with that.
Mhm.
And then in the middle of it, she'll start searching to try and find her bio mom and dad, and kind of a surprise ending
Mhm.
that you don't expect at the
Oh,
end.
okay.
And that was kind of
Yeah.
based on a friend of mine that and
Oh,
her
okay.
life. So yeah.
Okay. That's I was wondering if these were based kinda on s certain people or true
Yeah, some of them.
accounts
Yeah,
and things.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
I just finished a Bible study. I haven't done one of those before.
Oh, okay.
And this one is an online version with a print workbook to go with it. But it's called Journeys, and it's basically taking your life, so the participants
Mhm.
would map out their life, and to begin with, you just decide on whatever events you wanted to have, so it doesn't have
Mhm.
to be themed, but it could be themed, whatever. It's just a starting point. And then there are it's 6 weeks, and so I have 5 different characters in the Bible. So I have
Okay.
Ruth and Joseph and David. And so as we go through their stories and see what God
Yeah.
does with them in each of these situations, you go back to your map and see where that
Okay.
matches up, and refine your journey and whatever to see where God
Oh,
was
wow.
with you in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. How it kinda relates to, yeah, where you're at and how God is,
Yeah.
right, meeting you in that place like they did in those Bible
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah.
And the yeah. Oh, that's neat. Oh, I
Yeah.
really like that.
Yeah.
Helps us to
And so
dig in deeper to to really get more out of these different Bible characters instead of
mhm.
almost thinking they don't relate to us or something. Mhm.
Yeah, because there's so many things, I mean, so many things that happen to them that happen to us, there's just,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So it's
Yeah.
just, and then I'm going to create videos to go with it that'll be with my stories to, expound on how my life related to each of those stories too, so
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Oh, that's neat. So that's a Bible study that's still in the works.
it's in the works.
Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I've
Oh,
actually
okay. Oh,
got
wow.
ready to just start on the videos, but another learning curve.
Yeah. Yeah. So when is the projected, date for that one?
I,
I
but I'd
don't
like to
know.
fall probably because I want to try it out with a couple of local Bible studies just to make sure all the
Oh,
glitches
okay. Yeah.
out. So yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
That's neat.
yeah.
I'm actually working on a devotional book myself right now, so
Uh,
that's an undertaking. I've already written a few books in the book on our story of losing our son, holding on to hope. So this is kind of another one to go with. It was called Joy Unstoppable. So it's like it's 30 days to living a life. What is it? Living a life with joy, regardless of what you go through in life. So yeah,
yeah, and those are on Amazon too.
it will be. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My other one is
Yeah.
other book. So.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite, yeah, the writing takes a while. I've got all little ones, all yours is grown grown. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, I have a lot more
Uh,
time than you now.
yeah.
So,
So, what is the age range of your children now? And do you have grandkids?
I have only 3 grandkids.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Howard died, 5 years later than my friend Mary Ann that I mentioned in in
Oh,
that chat,
okay.
calls up and she says, "Do I have the man for you?" And I go, "Yeah, right, okay." He really likes kids, yeah. Anyway, so
Yeah.
I met him, and he had 2 natural and 2 adopted. He was divorced, and
Okay.
then, I had my 3, so that was 7, and then he says, "Don't you think we should have some together?" I'm thinking, okay, because the youngest 2 were both 7 years old. It's kinda like,
Okay.
think maybe I'm done, but, I don't whatever. So I got pregnant with Jed, and then I didn't want him to be a tag along, so I got pregnant again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Emily, and I thought that was gonna be all, but God had other
Uh,
plans.
yeah.
So my
Oh,
natural family planning baby, Sydney, was born last. That's kinda
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they're all
How
at this point,
so what
my youngest is 30, and my oldest
oh,
is
okay.
51, just turned 51.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they're about 21 years apart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. And then so my daughter Sarah has a daughter turning 15 in June. My adopted daughter has a son who is a 22-ish.
Okay.
And then our son Aaron just had a baby a couple years ago. We didn't think that they were going to have any. I'm not sure they thought they were going to have any either. And so,
Okay. Yeah.
and he's about ready to retire from the Coast Guard. So he'll be turning 2 in this summer. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah.
been fun. And the rest
Yeah.
our bunch are not married, and a bunch of them are just don't want to have kids. So
Okay.
I thought I was going to have just oodles of grandkids,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
guess not. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Kinda like my mom. She's got a lot. I'm the youngest of 9, and see, I'm the mom of 10, and yeah, she's got a lot of grandkids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that would be fun.
So, yeah. Is there kinda other significant things you would like to share here yet with the audience, or specific things that, to help
I
others kinda going through what you went through, like things
yeah,
that you really held
yeah,
on to or helped you or something?
I think, I just started the new podcast called Just Talking About Jesus, and I think with that one, God's kind of been at me to, yeah, you really need to start a different podcast because what I was doing before was just interviewing women that were doing extraordinary things. And I would interview some people, my audience isn't um totally faith-based. And so I
Mhm.
was kind of keeping it moderate,
Mhm.
but I would interview some people who I knew had amazing stories, but I didn't feel like I had the freedom to really, tell what God was doing in their life. So this new one,
Mhm.
it's kind of like, okay, okay, I'll go, and now I'm like 5 episodes in, and it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, this is really what I'm made for.
Yeah. Wow.
Because a chance of just to have
Yeah.
conversations about who he is in your life and what he's
Yeah.
doing and how faithful he is and how he's our provider and what
Yeah.
he's, you know, just always
Yeah.
there. So rich, and there's just no end to talking about Jesus.
That's right, what he's done, that his goodness and his faithfulness, yeah, and we're to make known that, sister, we're to make known his goodness and the things he's done in our life and to share our testimonies and stuff, and so, um, I really like that, all
Yeah,
about Jesus. So what is the name again?
just talk.
Talking just talking about Jesus, okay, yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think too because the other one is limited to women in the Northwest, so and
okay,
limited to women. This is
yeah,
open to anybody anywhere, and I mean, case in point, look, we're not next door to each other, so it was
yeah,
easy to interview anyone,
yeah.
and I think
Oh,
it's
that's
gonna
good.
spread into something, just as something And that's the cool thing about the technology now, isn't it?
Yeah,
That you can spread the word without having to go to all nations or go all
yeah,
places. It's just available for everybody.
yeah, yeah. Or you can talk to, well, from your home, you can talk to people all over.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's just really a blessing, isn't it? Yeah. I'm sure you've seen that with your
yeah,
YouTubes as well.
yeah, for sure. And realize like, wow, I didn't know I was going to be talking to these different people and what all God had in store, and then just being able to help them share their stories of what God did is really helpful to them, and then to the people that's going to hear. So it's yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing to be able to do that.
And just for me, it just encourages my heart to hear people's stories and the powerful things God's done with them. It's just, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
The
yeah. It
great
really
God.
encourages us. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so because that's what it says, our faith, is built on these kind of things, hearing of what God has done. And there's the verse that says faith, yeah, comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God, of the stories in the Bible, and then by the people's testimony.
Yeah. By the word of the
Yeah. So
testimony, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how we grow in our faith. So
And I just
yeah,
count it a privilege to be able that God wants to use me that way. You know,
yeah,
that's just, and that's what I feel too with my books. It's just a way to evangelize and share who He is. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's good. Well, it's been fun talking to you.
Yeah. Thank
I,
you.
yeah. So yeah, just all the best with your books, the ones you're in the
Hmm.
middle of, the ones you've written, and with your podcast and stuff. That's exciting to see what God's going to do with that when we're
Yeah.
obedient. Yeah.
Right.
And so, yeah, is there any other last words or something you want to say? I don't want to rush us, but if we're done. But if you want to say anything else, you
No,
can go
just
ahead.
I don't know. I mean, if you're floundering in your faith or you're not sure where God is in the moment and whatever, just the biggest word is just trusting Him because He does love you more than anybody could even imagine. You know, and He does have your best in mind, whether it looks like it at the moment or not.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
He does make all things work together for good.
Yeah. Yeah. Romans 8:28. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah,
Even though it doesn't have to always look good at the time,
yeah,
but he can work it out for good. And he uses these different things that even are look bad, or maybe our enemy has even meant it to harm us, but he can still use that and turn that around.
yeah,
And so,
yeah.
yeah,
And we always have the hope that we're gonna be with our family again, those that we love that have gone on behind. They're the lucky ones, the ones that
yeah,
have died already, they're the lucky ones.
yeah, that
But
have
I
gone on
wanted to sh
home.
I wanted to share this, I forgot about that. So,
Oh, okay.
when we go down to Guatemala, um, the first day we meet our sponsor kids and do things but the other days we go to other communities that have sponsored kids.
Yeah.
And, this is through an organization called Unbound. So we went into this town, and this was really our first trip down there, so we didn't really know how things were going to be, but they do something like that they call an alfombra, and so they spread all of these plants on the road, and there's flowers, and they're decorated, and so all these women are standing along this road, and as soon as you get off the bus they're clapping and they're singing and they're like
Mm.
excited that you're there. And then so there was somebody was standing in an upper balcony, and they were
Mhm.
throwing out confetti, and there's firecrackers going on and all of this, and I just thought after it was overwhelming, just
Mhm.
to feel like you're so special to do that. But
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
thought I thought afterwards, that's what heaven's going to be like.
Oh,
All of
okay.
your people are going to be
Yeah.
lining the streets,
Yeah.
and they're going to
Yeah.
be cheering for you, and they're going to be clapping and singing.
Yeah.
"You're here. You made it. We're so happy. We couldn't wait for you to be here." And then you're gonna go right into the arms of Jesus.
Yeah. 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 And all the angels
Yeah,
singing, and
yeah,
yeah, that's a beautiful picture of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that to me is just like, "Oh, yeah, I can't wait."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and
Not that
it's
I'm
a
gonna
beautiful
rush
thing that
it, you know?
yeah. Yeah, this world is not our home. We're just passing through
Mhm.
and one day we'll be forever with the Lord and reunited with the loved ones that have gone on before us. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the things Howard was, he said, "The first thing I wanna do, I wanna talk to Isaiah, and I wanna talk to John.
Oh,
I wanna talk
yeah.
I wanna talk to these guys and see what really happened."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Like get behind the scenes story, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's neat.
that's gonna be good. So,
Yeah. All right.
alright.
Well, I guess
Well, thank
take
you.
care. Yeah. Yeah. All the best to you. And yeah, I'll be back here on my show for my Monday next week. So everyone,
Okay,
I wish everybody a good week. And yeah, you take care, Jan. Okay.
okay. Bye-bye.